Abhishek. It's great to have you at the Signify Lounge. Thank you for coming over.
No, thank you
for
for having me, Apeksha. Pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure having you here.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Abhishek. What brings you here today?
My name is Abhishek. I am with a company called Menyala, which is a venture studio, venture builder based in Singapore. We've been around for the last 3 years. What we do is we build startups, literally from a -1, taking an idea to a venture by bringing in founders, supplementing them or complementing them with different functional domain skills and helping them navigate that journey from -1 to 0 with the intent to float them up into a separate startup if we see the right signals, and then obviously supporting them through the journey from there on. So in the last 3 years of of us being around in Singapore, we built about 7 startups now across different domains like Fintech, AI, and blockchain. And we continue to do this on a repeatable and scalable basis.
Sounds exciting. Since you spoke about, the fact that you've been investing in companies that are into AI, I'm specifically interested to understand a little more about this. If you could shed light on how the AI has impacted your space and how it's going to continue impacting you in the next 12 months. If you could shed light on that.
Sure. Various different dimensions to answer that question. Perhaps the first one is just in terms of what's happening within the AI space, right? I think it's related to a broader perspective on AI and where the evolution of that is. What companies, organizations, and individuals as well have been really focused on is the co-pilot aspect of AI, of supplementing their capabilities or their day-to-day tasks to make it more efficient. And that's been the more common use and more visible use for us as consumers or individuals, also organizations. What's obviously happening behind the scenes, increasingly so, is the proliferation of AI agents or agentic frameworks, which is essentially helping solve for different workflows, different interactions between systems, processes, thereby automating it, to a certain extent making them autonomous as well. As a result of that, you are starting to see the ability to build processes, systems, and workflows and solve for them a lot more faster with less people and less human interactions. Now, on the flip side, when you think about AI, obviously all of this in some form is going to drive substantial efficiencies. For lack of better words, and without mincing words, it will create some level of unemployment. But on the flip side, what it's also starting to do is it's opening up doors for individuals to become entrepreneurs that much more faster and that much more independently. I was looking through my LinkedIn over the last 2 months, and there have been so many posts from individuals, angel investors, where they've seen some of the companies that they've invested in, a small group of 3 to 5 people that have come together to take a company from a 0 to a $5 million revenue, which would have otherwise taken 20, 30, 50 people to do that in probably twice as much of time, and therefore X times the investment. Now that directly is a consideration for us as well as we think about us being a venture builder, because our ability to build these startups is getting more and more efficient. At the same time, for us, as we think about bringing in more and more founders into the ecosystem, we will start seeing a lot more founders showing up on our screens, because you are going to have a lot more entrepreneurs out there trying to build their own businesses, successfully or unsuccessfully, but battle tested enough to be able to do it again and again and again.
Yeah, that's a great point. Actually, it gives a lot of founders time to mastermind and think of the bigger picture rather than getting into the small details. You have agents, like you mentioned, to take over and do that. That's a very interesting perspective. Now, shifting gears a little bit, if we were to talk a little bit about talent, what's the most important skill that you look for when you hire?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I've divided into 2 parts, especially talking about it from a perspective of what we do as a venture builder. So the first is when we think about founders. When we look at founders, there are obviously there are a whole bunch of traits and attributes that we are looking for. But the two that really stand out are, one, the fact that are they able to execute at a high velocity, but with a high sense of judgment, and therefore their ability to be right a lot. What that essentially means is, as they are building and they are going through ambiguous, unpredictable futures for their ventures, are they able to take the right calls, learn fast, iterate, and go at that problem again and again? And that is an important quality and the perseverance that's required behind the scenes to be able to execute at a pace, but having the high judgment to be able to take the right calls when you're on the fly. The second aspect that we do look at very positively is their ability to build this on a repeatable basis, but more importantly, carry the team along with them. And we do see signals of this substantially when we look at repeat founders that come into our ecosystem, because more often than not, they have crews. They have people that they have worked with in their previous startups or in their past experiences of trying to be an entrepreneur. And if done right, you will typically see these individuals continue and wanting to continue their journey with that same founder, the same entrepreneur, again in the next endeavor. And that is a great signal for us to see that there is an ability of the founder to not just inspire and motivate a team, but also carry them along through their journey, through different emotions and through different times of uncertainty in a startup. So that's on the founder lens. On the, when we think about the other functional and domain skills that we hire, we are looking for builders. But I think what needs to shift from a talent perspective, which we are increasingly being cognizant of as well, is the fact that the builders no longer need to be identified based on their pedigree or their potential alone. We have to take into account their ability to execute in ambiguous situations. And that becomes really challenging because you bring in people who don't really know what they're going to build or how they're going to build it, but they see the inspiration driven by the vision of what you want to drive towards or what you want to get out of a startup or a business that you want to try and build. And they have to have the ability to scale through or scale up or scale down through a success or a failure and still continue going at it the next time around. And therefore, our intent is to bring in builders who have this, who just don't have a potential and pedigree, but also the ability to build in ambiguous, uncertain, times and situations, and do that on a repeatable basis.
Absolutely. We are living in times where technology is evolving at such a rapid pace. If you're not able to keep up with that and have a vision, then it can be challenging to build teams as well. That's a great point. Lastly, I wanted to also understand, you mentioned, we very briefly spoke about, how you've supported diversity and inclusion as part of your, as part of Menyala, right? So just if you could shed a little more light on this topic.
Actually, again, going back to founders and builders, we've been very cognizant of bringing in founders who are from a diverse background. So we bring in founders from all walks of life from across the world. We, in fact, have been increasingly seeing more and more female founders coming into this ecosystem. So we, in fact, brought in our first female founder about 6 months back, I would say. And we are on the verge of bringing in another female founder in the next month or two. Therefore, we continue to bring this ecosystem and obviously, keeping a very close eye for the diversity ratio of founders coming into building and, building their next startup with us. On the builder side, yes, absolutely. I mean, we continue to maintain a very healthy balance. We are increasingly seeing, and we were briefly talking about it, your role in supporting, female women in tech. And we are starting to see a lot more of these individuals, women in tech, being builders, being in the tech industry, engineers, product managers, and we continue to hold a fairly balanced, diversity ratio within our teams of builders.
No, that's great to hear that you support such initiatives. Possibly we could collaborate as part of sponsors in tech in the future.
Absolutely.
As well.
We're always looking for founders, female founders, so we're always happy to bring them in, talk to them, and make them a part of this ecosystem and support them, more importantly, in their journey to build their next big startup.
No, that's always exciting. Sorry, one last thing before we wrap up.
Please.
I'm sure you've spoken to Michael and heard about Signify's new talent acquisition as a service. Do you foresee using their services in the future?
Definitely do. As we build more, I was talking to Michael about this. As we build more and more startups, ventures, there is a need to scale the talent acquisition at a very early stage. And there's only so much you can put behind each individual startup and only so many resources. I think the uniqueness of the platform like Cygnify to be able to hire for one particular role across multiple organizations is definitely a great value proposition, because you would typically be looking for a full stack engineer or an AI engineer across multiple startups that we build. And a platform like Cygnify would allow us to do that at a low cost, but on a repeatable basis across all our ventures. So definitely worth talking as we continue to build ventures within Menyala.
That sounds amazing. Abhishek, it was great having you here. Thank you for coming down for this chat.
Thank you for having me, Apeksha. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.